What is up, everybody? Welcome to Stat Diggers and welcome to Pub Sports Radio. We are going to go balls deep into this next card. And this card, we have a banger in UFC 266. There are some phenomenal fights on this card, to say the least. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm also actually going to this card as well. So it's going to be fun to break down these fights, head to the card, and see how it all plays out. I'll be in Vegas for the weekend. Should be a very, very fun time. Before we get started, if you guys can leave a like on the video, also subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio, getting really, really close to that 10K range on Pub. Hopefully we can hit that in the near future. And yeah, really looking forward to this card. Like I said, Uncle Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to this card? And kind of go give a quick recap of last night as well.
Very much looking forward to this card, man. Pay-per-view. We got the return of Nick Diaz. That's got to be entertaining. You know, we got Shevchenko back. We got Volkanovski, Ortega. Some really good fights on this card. A couple of really intriguing heavyweight fights on this card. Last night was a winning night for me, but you know they're not going to put me on the Mount Rushmore of MMA cappers for winning 0.17 units. So. And I probably I made one of the worst bets I've ever made. That was 1 unit on Mandy Bohm, and God, was she awful. That just kind of made me sick to my stomach because, you know, you determine what your good bets are and what your bad bets are by how your fighters perform. And, you know, she was about 50-50 to win the fight when I bet her, and God, she looked like she had about a 10% chance to win that fight. So, yeah, man. I won money. My untracked parlay that I gave out on Just the Tip came through. My ass shaving of the week came through. It was a plus money for DFS and betting for me, so I'm not going to complain. But you know what, man? It doesn't matter whether we win or we lose. The next week's work is right there in front of our faces, Brady, and we got to get into it, man. We got 14 fights. Oof. We got 6 days until these fights are going to be happening. So, man, we got our work cut out for us, buddy.
Heck yeah. I woke up at 8. I was telling you, I woke up at 8 o'clock this morning. And you know me, Weez, I usually wake up at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the earliest. So that sucked. And I've been up all day trying to get through this card. Tons of fights. It was a lot more than I expected, but mostly prepared for the most part and looking forward to this card. Like I said, yeah, for me, yeah, good job on the winning night last night. For me, you know, losing nights happen. That's fine. Bad beats happen. That's fine. But 3 bad beats in one night, Uncle Weezy. I mean, take a look at some of these losses. Tony Gravely, 2 units, got beat the line movement, minus 165. He knocks out Nate Maness, knocks him out cold. And Nate Maness survives, comes back and knocks him out, gives Gravely his first knockout loss. This one hurt bad. Montel Jackson, JP Blaydes fight doesn't go the distance. 2 units, minus 200. What the heck? You know, like how many times does he have to knock out JP Blaydes before the fight gets stopped? I think he set a record like 4 or 5 knockdowns in that fight. And then the other one, this one hurt as well, but it was expected. Ian Cutelaba wins in round 1, plus 290, 0.75 units on that. It was right there. It was right there. He like flatlined Clark. And the ref doesn't stop it. Cutelaba goes in and just starts pounding on him. Ref still doesn't stop it. He survives. And then round 2, I also had round 2 for Cutelaba. Quarter unit plus 900. Cutelaba's in mount with 3 minutes left. I'm feeling good. And the finish doesn't happen. Devin Clark's very first decision loss. So those were the losses of my night. So that sucked. But the wins, Carlston Harris beat a ton of live movement. It was one of the bets I did bet on the show. That was good. Started off the night right there. The main event, I should have put more on this. Fight does not start round 5. We talked about this on the main event, deep dive, minus 145, put 2 units on that. And then Arman Sarukian wins inside the distance, half a unit, plus 160. And then I also had a parlay with 2 legs last night's card and 1 leg that's going to be on this card. So that's going to be nice going to this leg, going to this card with a parlay that's 1 leg away from cashing. But all in all, a slight loss on the night. And it's just sickening. It's sickening seeing like if either Gravely, Montel Jackson, or Cutelaba would have finished inside the distance, I would have been up on the night. So that sucks. But all in all, I mean, it was a crazy night, crazy card. I enjoyed it for the most part outside of getting or feeling robbed, but it was a good card. So looking forward to this card, looking forward to bouncing back as always. And I do want to shout out the chat before we get started. We have Mohammed, first one in the chat. I'm on the same parlay as your last leg is Santos. Thanks for the tip. Yep, hopefully that does cash. Sarukian and Blanchfield got it done. Pub Sports Radio in the chat. We have Popa in the chat. Boston Nick, what is up, Nick? Daz in the chat. Simone, Monk hanging out. Smooth Cat, Arthur. See who else we got in here. JSJ and B. What is up, B? All right. So I say we start with the first fight of the night, Uncle Weezy, and let's go to. Okay, here it is. So we have Jonathan Pierce going against Omar Morales. We have Pierce, who is 29 years old, 6 foot, 71-inch reach. Omar Morales, 35 years old, 5'11", with a 73-inch reach. So Omar Morales, 35 years old, getting pretty close to being 36 as well. That definitely is a concern. A younger guy, Pierce, is going to be 6 years younger. And then we have Pierce having a 1-inch height advantage, but going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. In terms of their last few fights, Jonathan Pierce did make his UFC debut against Joe Lozon, got knocked out. That really surprised me along with a lot of people, but did bounce back well with a very good finish win over Kai Kamaka, who's a very tough guy. All in all, Jonathan Pierce is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. As far as Omar Morales, he knocks out Harvey Park. I believe that was on the Contender Series. After that, he takes Dong Hung Ma to a decision. He takes Gabriel Benitez to a decision, wins that as well, loses a decision to Giga Chikadze, and then wins a decision over Shane Young in his very last fight. Him as well. He is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So, Uncle Weezy, I know you looked into this fight quite a bit, so you're going to have a lot of stuff to tell us. Where should we start?
Yeah, let's start with the size. It shows Pierce having a 1-inch reach advantage and having a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. I think Pierce is going to be the much bigger guy here. He's huge for the weight class. I think it says 6 feet, but I get the feeling this is going to look a lot like Carlston Harris versus Impa, where you're just like, when you see them in the cage next to each other, you just saw that Carlston Harris was way bigger. I think we're going to see Pierce being bigger here. If we look at the experience numbers, they're actually kind of similar. Pierce has 2 more fights, about 30 more minutes in the cage. Both these guys' average fight time is between 7 and about 8.5 minutes. Omar Morales, about a 10-year MMA career. Jonathan Pierce, about a 7-year MMA career. Morales, 2 more fights at the UFC level, and I believe he was also, you know what, he came in on the Contender Series, but I thought he might have been on one of those South American Ultimate Fighters, but I don't think that's the case with him. But, both of these guys have winning records thus far, with Pierce being 2-1 if you include his Contender Series win, and Morales is 4-1 if you include his Contender Series win. Jonathan Pierce, 90% finish rate in his 10 wins. For Omar Morales, it's about 63%. And Pierce has been finished in 3 out of his 4 losses. So if we look at the striking stats here, we'll see Pierce at 55% striking accuracy, Morales at 37%. But look at Pierce landing 8.8 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 6.65. That's indicative of a very high-paced fight. And Morales, much lower paced, as he's landing 3.66 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 3.01. The striking defense, there's a huge difference between the striking defense between these two gentlemen, as we've got Omar Morales with a very solid 63.5% striking defense, while Pierce is below 50% at 46.1%. So Morales has been knocked down once in 199 significant strikes absorbed. Pierce has never been knocked down. And Omar Morales has 2 knockdowns in his UFC tenure in 242 significant strikes landed. So really, when I was watching tape on these guys, it's very clear that Morales is the much better striker here. He moves forward a lot. He's accurate. He hits very hard. And Pierce is extremely hittable. Basically, everything that you throw at Pierce is going to land. He's got virtually no head movement. He relies on his chin. And it'll be very clear that while this fight is standing, and especially early, Morales is just going to be way better on the feet than Jonathan Pierce will be. If we look at the grappling stats, we see that Morales hasn't done much grappling. About 19% of Morales' fights have taken place in control time positions. Only 11 combined takedown attempts for and against Morales in 5 fights. While for Pierce, it's 15 takedown attempts for in 3 fights and 8 takedown attempts against So, definitely a lot more grappling going on in those fights, although the control time percentages are about the same, still about 20 to 21% for Pierce, while it's about 19% for Morales. But Pierce has gotten 9 of his 15 takedown attempts here. So 60% takedown percentage. He's averaging 5.91 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he's getting taken down 1.31 times per 15 minutes. So Pierce's biggest asset is his pace and conditioning. The guy has a tattoo of a battery, the thing that you take off the battery, for the round circular little battery, flat ones, and it's the perfect tattoo for this guy because he never gets tired. He continuously puts a pace on. And as the fight goes on, he becomes more and more dangerous because of that pace, because of that volume, because he just doesn't get tired. And then when he starts mixing in the wrestling, that's when he really gets good because he drags people into a very high-paced fight that they can't possibly continue. And that's when he's at his best. If we look at when Pierce is getting those finishes, none of them are coming in the first round. They're all second and third round finishes for Pierce. And it's because he turns up the volume as the fight goes on. And as his opponent gets more and more tired, Pierce puts more and more volume on. He's going to have to survive early here. This is going to be Morales early or Pierce late, in my opinion. If we look at the level of competition that these guys have faced, we see that Morales' ratio is better, but Pierce has fought the more experienced competition due to him fighting Joe Lozon. But we've definitely see that Dong Hyung Ma, Gabriel Benitez, Giga Chikadze, and Shane Young on Morales' resume, and then Harvey Park on the Contender Series. So he's fought some good guys. It's really Pierce that was on the regional scene for a long time and has fought probably the lower brand of competition here over their career. So I'm giving Morales a strength of schedule advantage here. I'm giving him a striking advantage. I'm giving Pierce the measurables advantage, being bigger and younger. And Pierce is the better finisher here, but it's that conditioning that's the X factor in this fight, the conditioning and the pace, because if you don't get Jonathan Pierce out of there, he is going to drag you into such a high-paced fight where if your conditioning isn't ready for that, you're going to have a bad time against him. But Morales thus far in the UFC has shown very good conditioning, in my opinion. He comes forward a lot, but Morales does not like being pressured. Pierce pressures a lot. It's an extremely interesting stylistic matchup to me. This is going to be my first balls deep breakdown of the week. I want to go really into this fight because I think it's a really interesting for a curtain jerker. A great prospect in Pierce, a great prospect in Morales. What are you seeing in this one?
Pierce is a very exciting fighter, a guy that I really do enjoy watching. Omar Morales, I'm pretty high on him myself, but he is 35 years old, about to turn 36, getting up there for a featherweight. And, I went through Morales' record in terms of UFC and Contender Series, and he has an 87% takedown defense, but nobody's really tried to take him down, or nobody really presents that wrestling threat like a Jonathan Pierce can, right? Like Harvey Park attempted 0 takedowns. Dong Hyung Ma, I think attempted 0 takedowns. Benitez, maybe 1 takedown attempted. Chikadze attempted 1 takedown, but obviously he's not going to get it. And then Shane Young was able to take him down once. So, I wouldn't be shocked if Pierce did have some success in the wrestling. And you just mentioned the unlimited cardio, the unlimited pace. But one thing I don't like about Pierce's game is how sloppy he is at times, how hittable he is. And that was one thing I was worried about going into the fight is, Morales could potentially knock him out. But you take a look at Morales and he doesn't really knock guys out, right? He only has 2 knockout wins in his entire career. So is he going to be able to knock out a guy like Pierce who, yes, he's very hittable, but he's very durable and tough as well. So yeah, I kind of like the Pierce side in terms of a dog or pass situation. I got to look into it a little bit more, but he's going to have the volume advantage, and sure, he's not going to be the better striker of the two, but I think as the pace as it goes on, I think he can definitely take over, and I think have success in the takedowns as well. Like Shane Young took down Morales, he was able to control him, I think for like 3 minutes of the fight. Yeah, 3 minutes and 26 seconds of control time Shane Young had. So, for me, I'm kind of leaning dog or pass, especially taking a look at the line. Like, to me, this seems like a very, very close fight, but we see Omar Morales opening up -190, currently -159. and the Jonathan Pierce opening at plus 165 and currently plus 139. I'll more than likely have no bet on this fight, but for me, it's probably a dog or pass. Fight doesn't go to decision. Oh, yeah, we have the fight doesn't go to decision is plus 130, and the fight goes to decision is minus 130 or minus 170. Any thoughts on the line in general, and then also on the violence prop?
Yeah, Pierce is the kind of fighter, in my opinion, that brings the kind of style that it's going to end inside the distance because A, he's incredibly hittable. Yep. B, he's incredibly sloppy. When he gets on the ground, he can absolutely be reversed. But he can be sloppy because it gets to the point in the fight where technique just goes out the window, especially when you're tired. And Pierce will make you tired. But the thing is, he is so sloppy, he is so hittable that I could absolutely see Morales getting him out of there early. Joe Lozon finished him in the first round. And it was because Pierce was extremely sloppy that he got caught in a position where he couldn't move. And then Lozon just ground and pounded him out. And that can absolutely happen here. So we look at Pierce, 14 professional fights, and 12 of them have finished inside the distance. That's at about 85%. And they're giving you plus money on the fight doesn't go.
It is plus 130 on the fight doesn't go.
Yeah. See, that to me is a great spot because it's just, we don't have to worry so much about the fact that Morales has never been finished and that he's not a great finisher, because Pierce is the kind of guy that brings the style that you want in a fight, in a violence bet, in a fight doesn't go bet. So I think that's a great spot here. Let's also remember Omar Morales, almost 36 years old, and he's training at Sanford MMA. And then we got Pierce, 29, on the come up, training at Fight Ready. And he's been there for a minute. So two great camps, two guys at, different points in their career. It's a really interesting stylistic matchup. I'm going to pick Jonathan Pierce. I'm a fan of his, but I see that a lot of the action is on Morales here. And believe me, I absolutely understand why he's the favorite. Pierce is really sloppy, and that really does jump out at you on film. So I am not betting this fight yet. I'll let you know if I come to something on Twitter, but as of this moment, I'm staying away, thinking about a live bet because Pierce has got such great conditioning, and thinking about a third round prop, something nice and juicy for Pierce. Because if this goes into the third round, Morales is probably going to be, his conditioning will be tested like never before.
Yeah, 100%. And more on that fight doesn't go to decision at plus money there. Yeah, I definitely have some interest there. Like Morales, he has some power, has not shown the knockouts. And I believe Morales is a black belt as well. So like you said, Pierce is sloppy everywhere, on the feet, on the mat. Maybe Morales could catch a sub or knock him out. On the flip side, Pierce, with the pace, the pressure, I could definitely see a late finish as well. So the fight doesn't go, it covers both sides. And yeah, plus money is interesting there. I'm going to look into it a little bit more, but that is a spot that does stick out initially. So we will move on to a fight that I have no clue why this is a fight, Uncle Weezy. Matthew Semmelsberger going against Martin Sano, and we have Semmelsberger, who is 28 years old, 6'1", 75-inch reach, going against Martin Sano, who is 30 years old, 5'11", 74-inch reach. Semmelsberger, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He had a win over Carlton Minus in his UFC debut, win over Jason Witt by knockout, and then a loss to Chaos Williams. As far as Martin Sano, he is 2-1 in 1 draw in his last 5 fights. I went back and watched that draw. Pretty much, he could have lost that fight very well. The problem with Martin Sano is we have not seen him in a very, very long time, and that is extremely concerning. And I'm actually really shocked that he's on the card. I went through it and watched the limited tape that's on this guy, and I was watching fights from 2013. I'm like, what is going on? And I came out of tape saying, what is Martin Sano good at? And I really don't know. I really don't know what he's good at. His last fight was 2017. He has not fought in 4 years and 6 months. 4 years and 6 months. He has not had a win in 7 years in 5 months against Clint Roberts. So this is a guy that has not fought in so long. But what I will say, Weezy, is he's very young. Well, he was young during his layoff. He was 25 whenever he took that layoff. He's coming back 30 years old. So this is a fight that is an absolute pass for me. There's so many question marks. I think Sano has horrific takedown defense, horrific cardio. I think Semmelsberger can definitely go to the wrestling, go to that route, and probably knock this guy out. But 5 years since we've seen this guy, just about, has he made improvements? Like, we don't know. So for me, this is a 1-800 gambler fight. I think Matt Semmelsberger should absolutely starch this guy, but there's just not enough information for me, Weezy.
Yeah, a layoff like that is a giant piece of information that's missing, because you just don't know how they're going to look when they come back. They could look great. They could have made great improvements. Maybe the reason that they had a layoff, maybe they had a really good reason for not fighting, or several really good reasons, and they're not ready. So, yeah, and then, God, Sano only 7 fights, and then he's 0-2-1 in his last 3, and then there's this layoff. So everyone's saying, what the fuck is this guy doing on the card? But the answer to that is he trains with Nick Diaz. Yep. And Nick Diaz is on this card. So this was probably, kind of like a handshake agreement between Dana and Nick, where he was like, hey, Nick Maximov is on this card. Nick Maximov trains with Nick Diaz. And now Martin Sano. It's probably a personal favor to Nick Diaz that this dude is on the card, because, come on, coming off a 4-year layoff, 0-2-1 in your last 3. And I mean, like, there's a loss to Dominic Waters in there. But who are the wins over? Anybody you've ever heard of? Who's Billy Colin? I mean, I don't know who these guys are. So, yeah, dude, you would just have to think, Semmelsberger gets this done. And we've seen, look, unanimous decision loss against Chaos Williams, where he didn't do much, but Chaos is super dangerous, so just the fact that he can last 3 rounds with Chaos is pretty good. We know that Sano is going to be a pretty good grappler here, training with Nick Diaz. 3 out of his 4 wins by submission, 1 out of his 4 wins by knockout, and 1 of his 2 losses has come inside the distance as well. So, I mean, a violence bet is probably something that'll be pretty juiced here, but for good reason. That would probably be a pretty good bet here. You figure this guy Sano, if you don't know much, chances are, that Semmelsberger is a pretty violent dude, and he hits really hard, showing, over 1% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. Really good striking defense at over 60%. He's landing more than he's absorbing. He's gotten both the takedown attempts, and he's defended the only one against them. Last 3 fights are Chaos Williams, Jason Witt, Carlston Minus. Probably a little bit better than Diego Herzog, Don Muhammad, and Dom Waters. So, yeah, man. I mean, you got to pick Semmelsberger here. But like you say, dude, it's really kind of hard. You're missing this giant chunk of information with Sano. Who the hell knows what he's going to look like? And the line's really wide. I'll be staying away as well, man.
Yeah, I go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Average Joe is saying, who the fuck is this Sano guy and why is he in the UFC? Well, I just think it's a personal favor to Nick Diaz. It's probably the situation here, because nothing else about it makes sense. And I mean, maybe this guy's making such crazy improvements in the gym that Dana White just begged Nick Diaz, like, you gotta let me sign this guy, but I don't think that's the case, Brady.
No. I went to Sano's Instagram. I saw he had like a ton of pictures with Nick Diaz. So I'm guessing they're like close friends or something. But yeah, Sano is a purple belt in BJJ. Semmelsberger actually just got his purple belt as well. And yeah, Semmelsberger should get it done. But again, like almost 5 years outside of the cage. Maybe he leveled up. But from what I've seen, this guy is not UFC ready. He's not Contender Series ready. He's not great. So I definitely get why we're seeing a massive line on Matt Semmelsberger, opening up minus 160 for some reason. My goodness. And now he's minus 550. And that probably continues to climb and climb and climb. I'm not going to put him in a parlay. I thought about it, but there's just too many unknowns for me to lay, minus 400 in terms of a parlay there for Semmelsberger, especially minus 550 now. Come back on Sano is going to be plus 400, open up plus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision is not out yet. That's the only book, or that's the only fight that does not have a fight doesn't go to the decision prop. Probably because they're scared to put it out for some reason, because people are going to hit it probably. So, yeah, for me, it's Semmelsberger probably inside the distance. I don't think there's much more to say there. All right, so we'll move on to the next fight. Another really weird fight. We have Nick Maximov going against Carl Roberson. We have Roberson. He is 30 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach, going against Nick Maximov. He is 23 years old, 6 foot, 76-inch reach. And Maximov got a win, I believe it was on the Contender Series against Oscar Cota. Got a decision win there. I think that was that weird fight where it was at heavyweight. His opponent weighed in like nearly 265 pounds, and he weighed in like 209 pounds, something crazy like that. And he goes out there and out wrestles this guy for 3 rounds, which was very, very crazy. So he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, obviously undefeated. Carl Roberson is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, but it's night and day in terms of the level of competition here. Submission losses to Brendan Allen, Marvin Vettori, Glover Teixeira, and then his 2 wins are over Roman Kopylov and Wellington Turman. He is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So yeah, a very weird fight here for me, Weezy. A very close one on the line as well. What do you have for this one?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of stats on Maximov. Only one fight at the UFC level. That was against Oscar Cota. And like you mentioned, Cota, a heavyweight. Maximov has always been a light heavyweight, but he took that fight to get an opportunity. And he snatched the opportunity, got the win via unanimous decision. But Cota, not a wrestler. Cota was a boxer. So he took down a boxer, And if we look at Nick Maximov prior to the UFC, those 5 fights that he had prior to the Cota win, the combined records of his opponents were 2-14.
Yeah.
So we got another guy here that trains with Nick Diaz, got an opportunity and a great stylistic matchup against a boxer that doesn't have a wrestling game in Cota, won that fight. And then now he's fighting a guy in Roberson who's been in the cage with Marvin Vettori, Glover Teixeira, Brendan Allen, and there's even another good loss before that.
Ferreira.
Ferreira, another black belt. So we see a situation where, on paper, there's a path to victory for Maximov. He's a good wrestler. He got 74.89% control time in that fight against Cota. Check this out, dude. One fight in the UFC, just under 75% control time for, 23% control time against, dude. So that means like none of the fight took place at striking range at all. That had to be on purpose. I mean, we know what Maximov is good at. We know what Cota is good at. And it's basically the same thing here with Roberson. Roberson's got great striking, but people, kind of try to dive in. He's a lot like Spann in that his striking is good. He has a lot of power, but he winds up winning more by submission because he gets front chokes from people trying to take him down. So huge level of competition difference here. This is a massive step up for Nick Maximov. And we've got Roberson's got over twice as many pro fights, 9 of 13 pro fights, or 13 pro fights for Roberson, 9 of them at the UFC level. So like 2/3 of this guy's UFC career has been at the UFC level, while for Nick Maximov, it's only 6 fights into his pro career. He's only been a pro for about 3 years, and he was crushing cans before beating Oscar Cota in the Contender Series. So Nick Maximov finished 5 of his 6 pro wins. Roberson has finished 6 of his 9 pro wins. But Roberson has been finished in all 4 of his pro losses, all of them by submission. And Nick Maximov is a grappler and a wrestler. So there could be a path to victory for him here if he does get this fight to the ground and is able to submit Roberson. That being said, I really worry about the step up in competition here. I just don't know if Maximov has seen anybody of Roberson's level. This looks to be, a spot where he might get a veteran lesson to me. What did you see on tape here?
Yeah, first of all, Aiden bringing up something that I was going to bring up. Roberson is training with James Krause at Glory MMA for this camp. I don't know if he's been there in the past. I think he was there in his last fight against Brendan Allen, right? Glory MMA. But regardless, James Krause is the man in terms of being a coach. But yeah, this is a really frustrating fight. You take a look at Roberson, and there's some glaring holes in his game, right? The takedown defense, 45%. He can be taken down at will. The submission defense, he's been submitted by a ton of guys. And what does Maximov do? He's a wrestler. He's a grappler. And just watching tape on Maximov, I was not impressed at all. I mean, he's fighting these really low-level guys, and I will give him one thing. He fights to a game plan. He fights to his strength. He goes out there and less than 10 seconds for most of the time, he's just shooting a takedown, right? Like, I did not see literally any striking of this guy whatsoever. He goes to his wrestling. He goes to it early and often, and that's pretty much all he does. So it's a really weird fight because, yeah, you take a look at who Roberson's lost to. Brendan Allen, black belt. Marvin Vettori, one of the best grapplers in the division. Glover Teixeira, phenomenal grappler. Cesar Ferreira, obviously a phenomenal grappler. So these are the guys that are beating him by submission. Maximov, he is competing in grappling tournaments outside of MMA, but he's a brown belt in BJJ. I think he's very one-dimensional. And one thing I noticed about Roberson is I think his grappling, although that's how he loses, right? He gets submitted. I think his grappling is underrated. He has shown some good things at times. It's just he seems to make these mistakes and gets caught. He was able to reverse Wellington Turman several times. He was able to stay safe on the mat with him. And like on the feet, it's going to be Roberson all day, I'm assuming, because I have literally pretty much seen Maximov throw, barely any strikes on the feet. So Roberson's very dangerous on the feet. I think that's where he's going to have success. But it's frustrating because it seems like Roberson should be the clear side, but would I be shocked if Maximov came in here, he shot a takedown within the first 10 seconds and, basically won the fight off of top control, maybe found a submission? No, I would not. But yeah, I got to go Roberson. I just was not impressed with Maximov. I think he's very one-dimensional, extremely, extremely one-dimensional. Roberson's fought the better level of competition, and it's not even close. Like Maximov has fought nobody anywhere near, a Brendan Allen, a Vettori, a Turman, even a Teixeira, even a Marshman. He's never even fought somebody as good as a Jack Marshman, and that's sad. That's very sad. So I got to go Roberson. I think it's a good spot for him to bounce back, but you can clearly tell that, they're trying to get Maximov a win here, right? Like if you're going to, take Roberson, like what does he struggle at? He struggles with the takedown defense, the grappling. What is Maximov good at? He's good at the takedowns and the grappling. They're trying to get Maximov a win, it seems like, but I think I'm with you. I think Roberson does teach him a veteran lesson here, and I think he does get the job done. I'll say by decision. But yeah, it's another sketchy fight. There's a couple fights on this card that are just very sketchy, and I want nothing to do with them. But I'll take Roberson here for the win. Just don't know if I'm going to be able to bet it. We'll take a look at the line is, and we do have. I do not even see a line here. Oh, there it is. So we have Roberson opening up plus 120 as a dog. He's currently minus 118. Maximov opening up minus 140. He's currently minus 102. So money is coming in on Roberson. Yeah, I just can't bet this fight. Like, I think Roberson's the pick. I think Roberson's the spot, but it just scares me. The stylistic matchup scares me here. As far as the fight doesn't go to decision, we have the fight doesn't go at minus 180, and then the fight goes to decision at plus 140. Any thoughts on the line? Any thoughts on the fight goes or the fight doesn't go, Weezy?
Yeah, the fight doesn't go is interesting for me just because we got Roberson 100% finish rate against, and then we got a guy like Maximov who's crushing cans, and you're probably all first and second round wins. It's hard to know what his conditioning is going to look like when he fights somebody that has some resistance, unlike Oscar Cota. But it'll also be down at 185 instead of up at heavyweight, so we could potentially see that Maximov's just a monster down at 185. And we got to remember that Carl Roberson has shown 45% takedown defense. So, there is a path for Maximov here, and he does finish fights. So the fight doesn't go is interesting to me, but yeah, there's a lot of missing information here, and like you say, Roberson's grappling is underrated. 4 of his 9 wins have come by submission, and he's a guy that's supposed to be known for his striking. So he does, exploit mistakes that his opponents make in the grappling. And even though he's getting out takedown attempted by 20-7, he's only getting out controlled 29% to 21%. So he's been a little more efficient than some might give him credit for in the grappling realm.
Yep, for sure. Nick saying smash the sub button. I agree. Smash that sub, smash that like. Let's get those likes up, guys. Really do appreciate y'all hanging out on a Sunday. Of course, we are, as you can tell, going live 1 hour earlier than usual, 6 o'clock or 6:15 p.m. Eastern time. So we do not compete with a Sunday night football, which tonight is a very good game. So definitely do not want to do that. But yeah, I'm with you. Terrifying. This is a terrifying fight to bet here. I'm going to stay away from it. I'm going to stay far away, just as I will on the last fight. So let's see if we can find a spot on this fight. And yeah, this is a fighter me and you, Weezy, have been very high on. Manon Fiorot going against Mara Bueno Silva. Fiorot, she is 31 years old, 5'7" with a 65-inch reach. Mara Bueno Silva, she is 30 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Really looking forward to this fight. And the reason I'm looking forward to it is Manon Fiorot is finally going to, get that test that I really do think she needs. I mean, yes, she can beat a Victoria Leonardo. She can beat a Tabitha Ricci, but I want to see if she can beat, someone like a Mara Bueno Silva. So really looking forward for her to, get her very first test in her career pretty much. And Mara Bueno Silva, she has 3-1 and 1 draw in her last 5 fights, had a draw against Montana De La Rosa, a submission win over Mara Morella Barella, a decision loss to Marina Moraes, which I believe Marina Moraes was actually supposed to fight Manon Fiorot, and Moraes pulled out of that fight. Prior to that, she did submit Jillian Robertson, and then she had a submission win prior to that as well. So 3-1 and 1 draw for Mara Bueno Silva, and then 5-0 for Manon Fiorot. Manon Fiorot, her one loss did come to her very first fight in her MMA career. It was against, I believe, Leah McCourt, and it was up a weight class at a catchweight. Leah McCourt is up a weight class above Fiorot. I think she fights at 135, and Leah McCourt was able to take her down multiple times, was able to control her. It was a very close fight, but Manon Fiorot did lose that fight. And, I take a look at that fight, and I just think she's so much better than she was in her MMA debut, and that was just 3 years ago. Manon Fiorot is making so many improvements, fight in and fight out. Like every time you see her, she just looks better and better. And we'll talk about it. But very good matchup here, Weezy. Let me know what you think about this one.
Yeah, I can't wait for this fight, and frankly, there's some interesting fights that we've already talked about. I'm interested for Semmelsberger Sano. I'm interested for Roberson Maximov, and Pierce is one of my favorite fighters against Morales. That's a stiff test for him. This is such a good card. And then we get a prospect like Manon Fiorot. Man, oh man, is she good. And that fight, against Leah McCourt, up at 13 pounds heavier than where she weighs in now. And I thought she won that fight. That Leah McCourt just tried to lay on her for 15 minutes. Fiorot did all the damage and got up several times. I don't think there were any rounds that McCourt wound up on top at the end. So Bueno Silva, very interesting thing here that I want to highlight in the stats. Mayra Bueno Silva has 3 wins by submission in the UFC. She's only attempted 4 submission attempts. So she's been successful on 3 out of her 4 submission attempts. She's very dangerous on the ground. So I found this stat really interesting, and that's that Mayra Bueno Silva has attempted 0 takedowns in the UFC and has had 26 takedowns attempted against her. So why are people trying to take down a woman that is just submitting people almost every time she gets the fight to the ground? It's very strange to me. And we've got Fiorot clearly is fantastic in the stand-up. She has a great striking style, is able to hit her opponents when her opponents aren't able to hit her because of that karate stance, because of that distance striking that she's so good at. She's great at keeping her opponents at range. She hits extremely hard. She's mean. She is a finisher. And she's French, and we all know there's one thing if the French are known for, it's their toughness, Brady. That's what everybody knows. So it's like this is a great fight. We've got really good prospects here, and Mayra Bueno Silva's 3-1 and 1 in the UFC. She's beating good girls. Jillian Robertson's a big win. The Barella win, not great. The Moraes was the loss, and then the draw to Montana De La Rosa was a very close fight. So this is a huge step up in competition for Manon. We got to remember Victoria Leonardo and Tabitha Ricci are a couple of steps below Silva here. So I think if this fight stays standing, Manon's going to have a really good time here. She's going to outstrike her. She's shown 80% striking defense thus far in the UFC, Brady, and she's landing 8 significant strikes a minute and only absorbing 1.98. She hits her opponents 4 times for every 1 time her opponent hits her. The arrow's pointing straight up for Manon. She's a big favorite, and there's a reason for that. We can look at those last 5. Win by KO, win by KO, win by KO, win by KO, win by KO. I mean, this girl's a killer. Got to pick Manon Fiorot here. I think that line is a little too wide. I think it's a little disrespectful to somebody with the experience and well-rounded game of Bueno Silva, but I still think Manon gets the job done here.
Yeah, let's put it in this perspective, Weezy. Manon Fiorot, I believe she opened up like minus 130 against Victoria Leonardo, and she closed around like minus 180. And now we see she is minus 270, opening up, get this, opening up minus 400 in this fight, which, yeah, that's insane. It's insane to me because, well, for one, I do think she wins the fight, but two, she hasn't really had that real test yet. This is going to be her first real test. Victoria Leonardo is not a test. I mean, Victoria Leonardo arguably should not be in the UFC. Tabitha Ricci should obviously not be in the UFC. Marina Bueno Silva, she's good. She is very good. She is very dangerous anywhere the fight goes. You mentioned very dangerous on the mat. I guess the one thing that stuck out to me, as well as it stuck out to you, Easy, 0 takedown attempts. Like, you got to think for her to win this fight, she's probably going to need to get it down to the mat. And seeing her attempt 0 takedowns, that's just very concerning for the Bueno Silva side, right? Like, is she going to win a fight standing up 15 minutes with Manon Fiorot? I lean towards no. Do I think Manon Fiorot should be minus 400, minus 300 where she's at now? Absolutely not. But I can very well see Manon Fiorot outstriking Mara Bueno Silva for 3 rounds. What I noticed also is Silva's very, very hittable. I think Fiorot is going to have the better striking defense of the two, the better output of the two. But Bueno Silva is dangerous. She bloodies up her opponents more often than not. And if this fight does hit the mat, Weezy, I have some serious, serious concerns for Manon Fiorot if it hits the mat. How does it hit the mat? I don't know. Does Bueno Silva take her down? I lean towards no. 0 takedowns attempted, and on top of that, Fiorot's takedown defense looks good. So I got to expect it's going to be on the feet, and at that point, I do favor Fiorot. But yeah, the line is a lot of it crazy. Like I said, she was minus 180 closing against Victoria Leonardo. Should she be minus 270 here? I don't think so. It looks like money's actually coming in on Fiorot. Looks like people are putting in her parlay. I think she wins, but I kind of want to see how this fight plays out. I'm not going to bet it. I'm a big Fiorot fan, like yourself, Weezy. We do have the fight doesn't go to decision, and Bet Online only opened up one over or a couple over unders, and it was more on this fight. They have the under 2.5 rounds at plus 110 that opened up plus 115, and then the over 2.5 rounds minus 140. And then the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 165, and the fight goes to decision is plus 125. Yeah, no strong lean for that for me, Weezy. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that because both fighters seem very, very tough. But on the flip side, both fighters are very, very dangerous. So it's kind of tough to decide whether it does go or doesn't go. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on the line in general?
Yeah, neither one of these girls has been finished before, but they're both such great finishers. They've both finished 6 of 7 professional wins. And, if the fight does hit the ground, Myra's very dangerous. But, the thing about Fiorot, which is why I think the line is where it is that when you go back and you watch all the tape on her, everybody talks about her striking. She goes out there and gets takedowns whenever she feels like it. Mm-hmm. And when people take her down, she either stuffs it or she gets right back up. Even in the McCourt fight, we saw that over and over again. This is, if I'm not mistaken, I think Fiorot's a purple belt in her own right. This is a woman who's very, very well-rounded. And, we saw Fiorot a minus 160 favorite against Marina Morias. Now she's, and that fight didn't happen. Now she's a minus 300 favorite coming off a win against Tabitha Ricci that, it was a short notice replacement. So, we can't get too far over our skis with Fiorot here, but she's a fantastic fighter, very well-rounded. And if people think that the path for Silva is to take her down, we've seen 0 takedown attempts out of Silva, and I've seen a good get-up game out of Fiorot and good takedown defense in her own right. I think that this fight stays standing and Fiorot has her way with her, but that's what everybody else seems to be seeing as well.
Yeah, I thought to be honest, I thought there would be more money coming in on the other side, on Bueno Silva, and maybe there will be throughout the week. So I'm going to monitor that line. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, I think Fierro does get it done. Looking forward to see if she does pass this test. Really looking forward to that. And next, getting to, in my opinion, I know it's on the prelims, but I'm really looking forward to this fight. Uros Medic is a great addition to the UFC. This guy is crazy. He's like Ion Kudalaba. He does not care. Jalen Turner, he is huge. He's 6'3", 26 years old, 77-inch reach. Medic is 20 years old, 6'1", a 71-inch reach. So Jalen Turner, I do not know how he makes weight at this weight class. He's crazily huge, 2-inch height advantage, and then a 6-inch reach advantage for Jalen Turner. So yeah, Medic is training at King's MMA. That's a very good camp there. Jalen Turner is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Vicente Luque, knockout win over Colin Potter, a decision loss to Matt Frivola, a knockout win over Josh Kulabau, and then a submission win over Brock Weaver. As far as Uros Medic, he did go on the Contender Series and get a very early finish against Mikey Gonzalez, and then got a very early finish against Alon Cruz. And, what we'll notice in those fights is, Weezy, those were ass shavings. The definition of ass shavings. I mean, he went in there. I believe Alon Cruz didn't even land one significant strike in that fight. Like, it was crazy. And, Jalen Turner is going to be the best opponent that Medic has fought by a mile. I mean, Jalen Turner is very good. I think he's improving fight in and fight out. Uros Medic is from the Alaska fight scene, so he has fought some really sketchy competition. But we're going to talk some violence here, Weezy, because both guys, I don't believe, have ever won by decision. I think all of their wins have came inside the distance, and Jalen Turner's been knocked out 3 times as well. Medic, obviously undefeated, never lost, but I think this is going to be some violence. I think this is one of the more exciting fights on the card, and I cannot wait for this fight. Medic is going to come out. He's going to try to take off Turner's head, and Turner's going to try to do the same thing. So what do you have for this fight, Weezy?
Yeah, the first thing I need to hear is, where is the fight doesn't go to decision here? It's got to be like minus 500, dude. It has to be, dude. I mean, these guys, listen to these video game numbers. And this is not just in one fight. This is in 2 fights for Uros Medic in the UFC, right? We're counting the Contender Series fight. He lands, Brady, 19.91 significant strikes per minute, and he absorbs 0.52.
Crazy.
So every time this guy hits I think that's 40-1. I think that means that he's probably landed 40 significant strikes and has had 1 landed on him. Those are video game numbers. That's what we call an ass shaving. When they show like, this is what's the definition of shaving ass? It's landing 19.91 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 0.52. So, and he's just killing these people. I mean, he gets in and out of there. I think Uros Medic, 351 seconds is the longest fight that he's ever been in. And that was second round, 51 seconds into the second round, he got a finish. So even if Medic doesn't win this fight, we could potentially see a situation where you've got him just completely gassing out after 1 round because he's so explosive, and he's never really he's only seen a second round once in his career. And Turner's a lot more experienced here. Both of these guys, like you mentioned, a 100% finish rate. And Turner's been finished in 3 out of his 5 losses. So, 22 fights, 20 of them have ended inside the distance. That's over 90% combined between the 2 of these guys. And Turner, like you said, he's huge. He looks like he should be a middleweight, and he's fighting at lightweight. He's 6'3". It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that these guys are both so talented, both so explosive, and Turner's got more than one way to beat you. He's got 2 wins by sub and 8 by knockout, and for Medic, it's the same thing. He's got 2 wins by triangle choke, and then everybody else that he hasn't triangle choked, he's knocked them the fuck out. When he beat Mikey Gonzalez on the Contender Series, while Gonzalez was like lying unconscious on the mat, he walked up to the camera and he said, "That's why they call me the doctor, because this guy needs a nurse." That was one of the best lines I've ever heard on the Contender Series, and that was just off the top of his head, I'm hoping. But Earls Medic is super, super exciting, and so is the tarantula Jalen Turner. Can't wait for this fight. But the violence bet and anything better than minus 500, it's like a max bet, dude. I'm telling you.
Well, you'll be surprised to hear that only one book has it out. I'm sure there's limits on it and all, and I do not have access to this book, but they put the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 185.
Oh! Oh! Where's the mortgage payment for this month? I need to put it on there, man. That's not going to decision. This fight probably won't even see. This will be under a 1.5 too, I believe. I mean, somebody's getting stopped here. These guys are both incredibly good.
Yeah, only way it doesn't go to decision is if Herb Dean is reffing. If Herb Dean's reffing,
or drunk Keith Peterson.
Yes, drunk Keith Peterson, smelling like alcohol and cigarettes. He'll probably let it go the distance there. But in all seriousness, yeah, like Medic has never been over the 1.5 round mark. He's only been to the second round one time, and went back and watched that fight. First of all, he was fighting a bum on the Alaskan fight scene. That bum took him down multiple times, was able to control him, actually win that first round against Medic. And then Medic comes out in that second round, knocks him out in less than a minute. So I do see some serious holes in Medic's game that I think people are going to take advantage of in the future. Is Turner going to be that guy potentially? But yeah, I'm kind of leaning Turner in terms of a pick. He's fought the much better competition, fought guys like Vicente Luque, fought guys like Matt Frivola. And I do see improvements in Turner's game, a lot of improvements. And of course, Medic is going to be improving as well. But I really like how big Turner is. He's going to have a massive reach advantage. And he's not one of those guys that has a lot of height, a lot of length, and doesn't use it. He uses it. Very good jab, very powerful. He hurts people, and he showed a very good ground game against Josh Kulabau, was able to get him down to the mat multiple times, was able to finish him as well. And then he also showed a good ground game against Brock Weaver, submitted him. So yeah, I kind of like Jalen Turner based off the fact that we've seen him go into the second round. We've seen him go into the third round, and although he's never won a decision, we have seen him get more extended than Medic has, and he has fought better competition. But would it be shocked if Medic came in here like a madman and knocked out Jalen Turner in the first 30 seconds? No, I would not. But either way, I'm not betting a side here at all. I'm looking forward to that violence. And in terms of the line, we do have Medic opening up minus 185. He's now minus 125. And then Jalen Turner open up plus 160 and currently plus 105. I'm going to pick the dog here as far as a pick, but I really don't care who wins as long as somebody is getting finished here. Yeah, the fight doesn't go to decision. Only on one book. Don't have access to it. If I did, it would be an official bet, but I don't. Minus 185, fight doesn't go to decision, and then plus 145, fight goes to decision. I'm going to keep my eyes out for the over/under. Yeah, I think it goes over or under 1.5. The only thing is, I'd probably opt for the under 2.5 just to be safer. We have seen Jalen Turner's fights go past it over 1.5 in this past two fights, but again, it's Uros Medic, so. Yeah, I think I'm thinking violence here, Weezy. Any final thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, somebody's just going to get starched. I mean, Medic has been starching hose, just going through him like a hot knife through butter. And the tarantula is just massive. 6'3", 77-inch reach. This is going to be by far the hardest test thus far for Medic. So I can't wait for this fight. Violence. I want to bring out my violence sign and just walk back and forth in front of the TV during this fight. It's going to be awesome. This is such a good card, dude.
Dude,
Such
I know.
a good card.
I know. Yeah, I did. I don't know if you remember. I did a contest on my channel. It was your parlay, and whoever had the best odds on the parlay wins. And I actually won my own contest. And this is what the parlay was. I had Uros Medic round 1 KO, parlayed with Amanda Nunes round 1 sub against Megan Anderson, 22-1. And that hit. So that was awesome. I put $25 on that and then won my own contest. Can't get any better than that. So big fan of Medic. We'll see if he can do it again. He definitely has potential to do so, but I will have a bet on some type of violence prop, and we'll see what the line is for that. So moving on to the next fight on the card, we have this is going to close out my parlay, Weezy. I had Arman Sarukian last week, Aaron Blanchfield last week, and this hopefully cashes the parlay for me. Roxanne Modafferi going against Talia Santos. We have Modafferi, who is 38 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach, going against Talia Santos, 28 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Going through their fights, so this is big, Weezy, and this is a point I really want to emphasize for this week is Taila Santos made her contender. I believe she was on the Contender Series, got a win, but she makes her UFC debut against Mara Morella Barella, and I think this is going to keep losing people money because it's costed me. Do not go and watch that fight. I mean, this is a completely different fighter than the fighter that performed in that Mara Morella Barella fight. She tricked everybody into thinking, Santos was a fraud. And then I bet Molly McCann, I think I got her like minus 110. She closed at like minus 190, and she went out there and she looked like the favorite. She not only looked like the favorite, she looked minus 400. And then still, I had my doubts, the Mara Morella Barella fight in the back of my head. I picked Jillian Robertson the next fight. She goes out there and she dominates Jillian Robertson for 15 minutes, taking her down at will, staying safe on top against a very dangerous black belt who typically wants it on the mat, but Santos took it to the mat and just dominated her. So I encourage you to not go and watch that Mara Morella Barella fight because it's just not the same fighter. Like it shocked me how much of a different fighter she looked in that fight than the Molly McCann fight and then the Robertson fight. And I guess it was because, no excuses, but she had like some anxiety and it was her UFC debut. And I always say, like, you can't really judge a fighter off their UFC debut. Like Zhu Rong, for example, last night, he looked like crap in his UFC debut. A lot of people were off of him. I saw Jenkins was a very popular bet. And then Zhu Rong went out there and he shaved some ass, Weezy. So I don't really think you should judge somebody off their UFC debut, and definitely not Taila Santos because, again, that is not the same fighter that fought Molly McCann and Jillian Robertson. With that said, Roxanne Modafferi, she is very experienced. She is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Decision loss against Jennifer Maia, a decision win over Macy Barber, a decision loss against Lauren Murphy, a decision win against Andrea Lee, a decision loss against Vivian Araujo, and then, so 2-3 in the last 5 fights. Santos 4-1 in the last 5 fights. So, Weezy, the stats on Modafferi are very ugly. I'm not sure if you're going to get into them, but what do you have on this fight?
Yeah, first of all, let's start with this. Taila Santos, 10 years younger than Roxanne Modafferi. Modafferi, one of the experienced queens of the UFC. We're talking 43 professional fights for a woman. You don't see a lot of women with more than 20 professional fights unless they're serious veterans. So Modafferi's been around forever. We're talking about an 18-year career in mixed martial arts at this point for Roxanne Modafferi. And Taila Santos is not young in the game herself. She's been around for almost 8 years in her own right. So Santos has got a really good amount of experience, though. 18 fights. She's 17-1. And that only loss on her record was the UFC debut to Barella. And I think you and I got shaved betting Molly McCann coming off of that fight, thinking that
Everybody did.
Was just a can crusher coming off the Brazilian regional scene. She loses to the Italian Barella, gets embarrassed really, and then you think, oh well, Molly McCann's going to clean her clock, and nope. And then you think, well, Jillian Robertson's going to out grapple her, nope. And then you see, like, man, she's 17-1. This girl hates losing. And she just had that one bad performance. And then not only that, 71% finish rate. That's up there with like Manon Fiorot and Mayra Bueno Silva. We don't see a lot of finishers in this division. But Taila Santos does have a career 71% finish rate. She has not finished any of her 3 UFC wins, though. Roxanne Modafferi, she's kind of known for throwing a jab out there that never hits. She's got 30% striking accuracy, absolutely horrible, about as low as it gets. Pretty much anybody in my database, it's hard to find somebody with this kind of a sample size that's, landing at 30%. I mean, I think Anderson Dos Santos at about 28.57% is the only one lower in the UFC, whether it's man or woman. So, yeah, and then Santos has got 48% accuracy, so she's going to be much more accurate here. Modafferi will throw more volume. But the striking defense definitely better with Santos. Santos is going to be better everywhere here. I mean, Modafferi's a great grappler, but, I don't think she's that much better than, like, say, Jillian Robertson. And Taila Santos just absolutely ragdolled Jillian Robertson, and I think controlled her for 5 out of 6 seconds. Like for every 6 seconds of that fight, she was controlling 5 of it. I think it was something like 750 seconds of control time for Santos in that fight. So she absolutely dominated. If we look at the strength of schedule here, Modafferi slightly fighting the slightly better competition here. Better wins for Modafferi and slightly better losses. Losses because Romero Barella was the loss for Taylor. So, Roxanne has had losses to Lauren Murphy, Jennifer Maia, Viviane Araújo. If we really look at Roxanne's career, she's, right in the meaty part of the curve. She's not, she beats the bad fighters and she loses to the good ones. And frankly, that's kind of where Taila Santos has been. I mean, it looks like Taylor can absolutely get into that upper echelon, but in order to do it, she's going to need to get past Roxanne. Roxanne's more experienced. Roxanne's got good grappling. She's good all around, but just not much of a finisher. Santos is meaner. Santos is going to be the better wrestler. Santos hits harder. You could see why this line is as wide as it is. And, and it's kind of hard to believe in Roxanne Modafferi at 38 years of age with 43 professional fights. She's going to be a perennial underdog from here on out. But, she's surprised us in the past. Don't forget about the Macy Barber fight. So, you can't count her out. But, boy, it's hard to picture her winning this fight, Brady.
100%. And something interesting to think about is when Roxanne Modafferi has won in the UFC, it's as a big underdog. Like against Andrea Lee, I think Andrea Lee was like minus 350. Roxanne Modafferi was able to pull off the upset. I do want to say, though, Andrea Lee is someone that has a 58% takedown defense. And then she obviously had the upset against Macy Barber. Macy Barber closed around minus 1,000. But I do got to mention that Macy Barber did get hurt early in the fight. And then she had an upset win over Antonina Shevchenko. Antonina Shevchenko is like around minus 300 as well. So her 3 UFC wins are all very big upsets. But you take a look at it, Andrea Lee, no takedown defense. Antonina Shevchenko, no takedown defense, no ground game. Macy Barber got hurt there. I think Taila Santos is going to be a very tough test for Roxanne Modafferi. I think she can do pretty much whatever she wants here. If she wants to keep it standing for 15 minutes, I think she can win that fight. And honestly, I think she can take Roxanne Modafferi down. She has no takedown defense. Obviously, that is Roxanne's strong suit, but I'm just seeing her being able to control a fighter that, in my opinion, is more dangerous on the mat than Jillian Robertson for 15 minutes like she did. I think she could have success doing so. So, yeah, I like Santos. She does close out a parlay. To be honest, I was very tempted in max betting Taila Santos a few weeks ago. The line has gotten away ever since then, but the reason I did not max bet it was because of that Mara Morella fight. What if she has another mental lapse? What if she, has anxiety for this fight? I don't want to put a 5-unit max bet on somebody like that. But we'll take a look at the line here, and we do see that Taila Santos is a very, very big favorite, and I expect it to get wider and wider and wider as the week goes on. Opening at minus 225, would have loved that line. It is now minus 400, though. Roxanne Modafferi opened up plus 190 and is currently plus 300. Fight goes to decision minus 230. If fight doesn't go to decision, is plus 170. I'm going to say it's a dominant Taila Santos 30-27, maybe 30-26 decision for me. Weezy, any final thoughts and any thoughts on the line or anything?
No, man, I think we've covered that one as much as we need to cover it. It should be an ass shaving on the side of Santos there, that's for sure. All
right, so we will move on to the next fight here. And okay, so this is one Weezy we've broke down, 5 times now. Shamil Abrakimov going against Chris Daukaus. Shamil is 40 years old, 6'3" with a 76-inch reach. Going against Daukaus, 31 years old, 6'3" with a 76-inch reach. So Daukaus is going to be the much younger fighter by 9 years. And then, yeah, same height, same reach. Shamil is coming off a pretty sizable layoff. I think it's around 2 years. Some health problems outside of the cage as well. And he keeps pulling out of fights like this. He pulled out of the Daukaus fight, I think 2 times now. So that's concerning. I'm not sure why he has pulled out, but weird. And I'm hoping this fight finally goes through because we broke it down way too many times at this point. So Shamil, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. As you can tell, he is fighting some phenomenal competition. A knockout loss to Curtis Blaydes, knockout win over Marcin Tybura, decision loss over Andre Arlovsky, a knockout win over Chase Sherman, a knockout loss over Derek Lewis. So very, very good competition on the Shamil side. As far as Daukaus, can't really say the same. Made his debut against Parker Porter, got a knockout win there. Nascimento knockout, and then Alexei Oleinik knockout. This guy is a knockout artist. So Uncle Weezy, we talked about it a lot. What do you got for this fight?
Yeah, with the last couple times we've talked about this, I've been kind of, low key singing the praises of Shamil Abdurakhimov, but God, am I worried? I'm looking at his Tapology page right now. This guy has pulled out of 5 fights since his last fight against Curtis Blaydes, which was a loss back in September of 2019 was his last fight. Then he pulls out against Cyril Gane, good choice. He pulls out against Cyril Gane again in October, good choice. Pulls out against Augusto Sakai in May of 2021. He pulls out against Chris Daukaus 7/24/21. He pulls out against Chris Daukaus 7/31/21. And now here we are. He's coming off a punctured lung. He's 40 years old. And then let's look at Daukaus's wins, right? Because, sometimes you see a guy like Daukaus come in and they beat guys, and because they're beating these guys that are low on the totem pole, you don't really know what's going to happen. But Parker Porter's 2-0 since Daukaus knocked him out. Nascimento looked fantastic in his last fight after getting knocked out by Daukaus. So even though Daukaus is beating this low-level competition, that he's beating is going out there and beating some pretty good guys. Parker Porter was a big underdog to Chase Sherman. He beat him good that fight, And look, Daukaus made it look easy against Nascimento. Daukaus made it look easy, against Porter, and these guys have not made it look easy for their opponents since. This guy's arrow is pointing straight up. I don't want to overthink this, dude. I need to see something out of a 40-year-old Shamil Abdurakhimov, who's 2 years since his last fight, has pulled out of 5 fights since, and had a rib go through his lung. Yikes, man. That's not good, dude. It's just not good. Shamil's just not good enough anywhere to worry me to think that Daukaus is not going to win this fight inside the distance. It's another great violent spot here, Brady, without getting too far into the stats here. Shamil has been finished in 4 out of his 5 losses, and Chris Daukaus has been finished in all 3 of his pro losses. So that's 7 out of 8 on the loss side, 87.5%. And then we're looking at the wins, and Shamil Abdurakhimov has finished 14 of 20 wins, and for Daukaus, it's 10 of 11. So 14 and 10 is 24 out of 31. Over 80% there. So just under 80%. So yeah, this is a great violent spot. It's a great spot to pick Daukaus by knockout here. And we've already went over this fight too many times, but Abdurakhimov has fought the better competition, but there's no doubt about that. But then if you look at everything else, I think it's just Daukaus.
Yep, I think it's Daukaus as well. And he's 31 years old. I believe he just quit his full-time police officer job. Mm-hmm. So he is focusing more on MMA, and you can definitely tell that he's taking this serious. You take a look at him now, like from pictures on Twitter and Instagram, and then compare him to, well, first off is his Tapology picture, or go back and watch a fight from 2015, 2016. This is a completely different fighter. So I mentioned it the last few times. There's a bunch of red flags. I've seen him taken down. I've seen him gas out after a round. But I think that same Daukaus that I did see back in 2015, 2016 doesn't exist anymore. I think this guy has made massive improvements in terms of his cardio. We've not seen it yet, but man, is he looking so much better shape than he did a few years back. So yeah, I like Daukaus here as well. I think he's going to have the speed advantage. The guy's fast. He hits very hard, and Shamil's been knocked out 3 times, and he's 40 years old, long layoff, punctured lung, just everything going against Shamil. And on top of that, Daukaus, black belt. I'm assuming his takedown defense is improving. Again, younger guy. I like Daukaus here. And the more the weeks went on since this fight's been off, the more I'm kind of more on Daukaus here. And we do see that Daukaus is minus 205, opened up minus 140 for some reason. And then the comeback on Shamil is plus 175. Looks like money is coming in on Daukaus at the moment. Fight doesn't go to decision is minus 210. Fight goes to decision is plus 160. I think I'm just going to probably keep it simple. I think I'm going to go with Chris Daukaus inside the distance, wait for that prop, hopefully get it at plus money. Even like the under 2.5 should be fine. Fight doesn't go minus 210 should be fine. But I think I'm going to take Daukaus inside the distance, maybe Daukaus by knockout, Daukaus round 1. I'm going to take a look at all those props. Any thoughts on the fight doesn't go minus 210 or fight goes to decision plus 160?
I like the Dawkins by knockout, just because potentially Abdurakhimov could lay and pray and have some success with the takedowns, and we've seen him do that before, particularly against Derek Lewis. So, there are some paths here for Abdurakhimov, but I just see Dawkins winning this fight, and Shamil Abdurakhimov does have one of my top 5 Tapology pictures. Look at how well dressed and handsome he is in that shot. I encourage you all to check it out. That's probably the best thing about Shamil right now, because right now, boy, he hasn't fought in a while, punctured, long layoff. Who knows what he's going to look like? So, yeah, I got to go with Dawkins here. And I do like the violent spot as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at his picture right now, and I can concur. Very, very handsome.
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, moving on. And then we talked about this fight last night, and it's a very intriguing fight to me. We have Dan Hooker going against Nasrat Haqparast. We have Hooker, who's 31 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. Nasrat, 26 years old, 5'10", 72-inch reach. Dan Hooker, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win over James Vick, a decision win over Ali Quinta, a split decision win over Paul Felder, a decision loss to Dustin Poirier, and then a knockout loss against Michael Chandler in his most recent fight. As far as Nasrat Haqparast, a decision win, a knockout win over Silva, knockout loss to Drew Dober as a big favorite in that fight, a decision win, and then a decision win over that bum, Rafa Garcia. So what I noticed here right off the bat, Weezy, is Hooker has fought the better level of competition, and it's really not even close. But we talked about it last night. Can you get into any information on the visa issues? You talked about it last night. I don't know much about it, but we heard that potentially Hooker might be coming in a lot later than he should be.
Yeah, so I think the situation in New Zealand and Australia is very much the same in that I think there's a lockdown, because of COVID. So visas are difficult. Getting out of the country is difficult. Oftentimes there are quarantine laws when you have to go back into the country. So I think what's happening here is that, from what I saw on Twitter, Hooker had actually tweeted that he would be making it to Vegas on Thursday, weighing in on Friday, and fighting on Saturday. And from New Zealand to Las Vegas, that's, I think, at least a 22-hour flight. I think maybe you gain a little time because you're going from west to east. I'm not exactly sure how that works out, but and then there's the date line and all that stuff. But it looks like he's going to be on a plane for like over 20 hours, get off that plane, cut weight, make weight, and then fight Nasrat Haqparast the next night. Anybody who's been on a long flight knows that you're not at your best the next day. So this is a fight that I'm just kind of staying away from, because on paper Hooker should easily win this fight. Yep. If you're looking at the level of competition difference between these guys, it's not even close. I mean, Drew Dober is by far the best name on Nasrat's list, and he got knocked out by him. While Dan Hooker is beating guys like Felder, Iaquinta, and Vick back when he was good. This guy is, much better competition, much higher level of competition faced. Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, and then the list goes on before that. So, and Hooker will be better on the ground too, because Hooker's got a lot of slick submission wins on his resume. So this information about him potentially making it one day before cutting weight has me just saying either stay away or just take the plus money on Haqparast. But if we're trying to break this fight down as, okay, both these guys will be in the cage at their best, then I think it's Hooker all day. But I mean, this is a big piece of information here. If it's true that Hooker doesn't make it in until 24 hours before weigh-in, yikes, man, it's stay away from me.
Yeah, we even got to be concerned, like, does he make weight? Is he going to be able to fight? Like, we have concerns about that. So, honestly, I was tempted in betting Hooker at one point, but after you told me that, I was like, no way. You can't bet Hooker, especially as a big favorite here. We do see money actually coming in on Nasrat Haqparast here. Hooker opened up minus 150, currently minus 155, and then Haqparast opened up plus 130, currently plus 135. And yeah, I'm with you. On paper, it's Hooker all day, right? Like, he's fought the much better competition. It's not even close whatsoever. Hooker just fought the guy that contended for a title, Michael Chandler. Prior to that, Dustin Poirier. Prior to that, Paul Felder, Ali Quinta, James Vick, Edson Barbosa, Gilbert Burns, Jim Miller, whereas Haqparast beat Rafa Garcia, Alexander Munoz, lost to Drew Dober, beat Joaquim Silva, beat Mark Diakase. Like it's not even close, man. But if Hooker's going to come in on fight day, not at 100%, after a long flight, cutting weight on the plane and stuff, like it's so sketchy. Like there's no point. So this is the biggest pass, second biggest pass on the card for me. Right after that Semmelsberger Sano fight, but yeah, it's a pass for me, Weezy. I can't even really look at many props. I mean, the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at -150. The fight goes to decision +150. Any other thoughts on this fight at all? It's a tough one because if Hooker's at his best, he beats Haqparast more often than not. But I have a feeling, if all that is true, he's going to be pretty compromised.
Very compromised. Oh God, you ever been on a long flight like that? I mean, it's a nightmare, dude. I mean, just being in an airplane seat for more than 4 hours sucks,
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to go and you got to fight a killer, then 2 days later and cut weight too. So yeah, it's just a big stay away from me, dude. I can't bet on this fight with that piece of information hanging out there. It just makes me want to stay away.
Yeah, but in terms of the card and especially I'll be there watching it. I do want to see Dan Hooker fight, so I'm hoping he does make weight, he does make it on time, and hopefully this fight does go through. But as far as a bet goes, really can't get my money behind either of these guys, to be honest. So many question marks. All right, next up we have Marlon Morias going against Merab Dvalishvili. We have Morias, who is 33 years old, 5'6", with a 70 or 67-inch reach. Merab Dvalishvili, 30 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. Marlon Marius is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, but he's been fighting some absolute killers. A submission win over Rafael Sunsao, a knockout loss to Henry Cejudo, a split decision win over Jose Aldo, very close fight there, a knockout loss to Corey Sandhagen and Rob Font, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He is on a 2-fight skid, looking to potentially bounce back here against Merab Dvalishvili, who is on a roll. 5-0 in his last 5 fights, wins over Brad Katona, Casey Kenny, Gustavo Lopez, John Dodson, and Cody Stamen, all of them coming by decision. So on one hand, on Marlon Morias, you see it there, like a big discrepancy in the level of competition. Marlon Morias has been fighting the best of the best guys for the last few years, and then Merab Dvalishvili has been fighting guys, a lot. They're not terrible, but just a lot lower level competition than Marlon Morias. But it's hard to deny that Merab Dvalishvili is a beast. He's a guy that I like quite a bit. Seems like everybody's a fan of this guy, right? Like he has a very fun fighting style. He's going to go in there. His striking has been improving lately, but he wants to go to his wrestling. He wants to go to it early and often. That's something he does a ton, and I'm sure you'll get into the numbers about that. But I'm looking forward to this fight, Weezy, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it as well, because we have Merab as a big favorite, but this fight is very intriguing here.
Yeah, this is one where I wouldn't touch any time props on, because I think the time props are kind of baked into both of these guys' win condition. Dvalishvili winning by decision using a grappling heavy game plan, and Moraes winning by knockout, because he doesn't have great conditioning. And boy, oh boy, the one guy, if you're lacking on your conditioning and they call you up and be like, hey, how about you fight Merab Dvalishvili? I'd be like, fuck you, and you hang up the phone, dude. That's what Marlon's manager should have done here, because this is the worst matchup for him. He's going to have to knock out Merab. There's no other way. Otherwise, he's just going to be on his back. And Merab is very good at avoiding submissions while on top. 42.43% control time for Merab Dvalishvili. 59 takedowns out of 135 attempts in only 8 fights. That is, I think that's 17. I think 17 times 8 is like right around 135. He's attempting 17 takedowns per fight. So Moraes has 66.67% takedown defense. He successfully defended 6 of 9. But Moraes' fights have taken place in control time positions about 12.5% of the time, while for Merab, it's almost 50% of the time. So it's just definitely a clash of styles. Striker versus grappler, shit conditioning against excellent conditioning. The longer this fight goes, the more it becomes just pure Merab. And what the funny thing is here is that Moraes might look for the way out, because in his UFC losses, there have been 4 of them. He's been finished in 3 of them. So And, in Aldo, the fight that was a split, or I'm sorry, I forget. I don't know who he lost to by decision. I don't have it in front of me, but I could see Dvalishvili actually finishing him because the conditioning issues for Moraes. He could get trapped on the bottom in the third round and just get pounded out. So, I mean, I've got to lean Dvalishvili here. And then you could always just, because Moraes is a big underdog already, you could just hedge it with a first-round knockout for Moraes. It's really his only path to victory. What do you see here?
Yeah, I like Dvalishvili as well for all the reasons you mentioned. I really hate the line, though. He opened up as a minus 110 pick'em, believe it or not, and he's now minus 155, and I expect that to keep getting wider and wider. People are very high on Merab, but we got to remember, right? Like, Marlon Marius is fighting the best of the best guys. Like, he just lost to Rob Font, and he lost to Corey Sandhagen. Like, there's no shame in that whatsoever. He's getting knocked out by these guys. The conditioning looks bad. If it gets out of the first round, he looks horrible. The Cejudo fight, he really gassed out bad in that fight. But again, it's Henry Cejudo, right? Like, Henry Cejudo, Corey Sandhagen, I think they both beat Merab Dvalishvili pretty handedly. So there is a level of competition discrepancy there. And also to mention how dangerous Marlon Marius is. This guy is a finisher. He's dangerous everywhere, has solid submissions as well. And we have seen Merab Dvalishvili get submitted by Ricky Simone, that weird submission at the end of the fight that was considered, I think, like a technical submission where he just like went out after the end of the fight against Simone there. So like Moraes has passed a victory here. Like if he could finish Merab, potentially he can knock him out, submit him. But like you said, like if this fight gets outside of the first round, the pace is just going to be way too much for Marlon Marius. You're putting a gasser against somebody that has the best pace and cardio in the division. That is a recipe for disaster. But yeah, it's going to be a dangerous, sweaty first round. I'll tell you that. Marlon Marius is very dangerous. I think a lot of people are counting him out, as am I. I'm going to Dvalishvili, but I'm not going to lay minus 230. I think that's a little bit too disrespectful, and the line is getting wider and wider. But yeah, I'm going to take Merab to hopefully survive the first round. If he does go for takedowns, stay out of those submission attempts. Don't get knocked out. Don't get too wild. Push him against the cage. Use your pace. Use your wrestling. Get into the second round. And I think if he does get into the second round, he will be safe for the most part. And then I think he does take over and probably wins a dominant decision here. Maybe, like you said, a late finish, but Merab hasn't really finished anybody in a very, very long time. So, yeah, I'm going to take Merab as well. I'll take him to win by decision. I'm not putting my money on this fight. Another wide line. I wouldn't even parlay Merab, to be honest, because of how dangerous Moraes is. But if you do parlay Merab, if you do play him, maybe hedge on Moraes in the first round. Like that's probably his win condition. But yeah, I'll take Merab in terms of a pick, but I'm just not as confident as the line is insisting. Like I see minus 275, I see minus 250. We do see the fight goes to decision. It's minus 165. The fight doesn't go. It's plus 125. If Merab wins, it probably goes over. If Moraes wins, it probably goes under. So, yeah, no strong take there either way. But as far as a pick, I will go on the Merab Dvalishvili side. I'm going to take the guy with the better pace, the better cardio against a gasser that gasses out after one round.
Agreed. Yeah, Marlon Marius has faced 9 takedown attempts in 9 fights. He'll probably face about 9 takedown attempts in the first 6 minutes of this fight, because of Dvalishvili's attempting 17 takedowns per fight. So, yeah, this is, it's just a really bad matchup. And, one thing you said earlier, and I saw the Reggae Panda put it in there too. I don't want to see Sandhagen in there with Moraes, with Merab, because Sandhagen's takedown defense is fucking terrible.
It is
and,
bad.
that would probably, I could see Merab laying on him for 5 rounds and making it look easy. But, we don't have to worry about that matchup because it's not on this card. But if you like pace, dude, Merab Dvalishvili, we got JSP kicking off this card. We got Nick Diaz. Dude, if you like pace, this is a great card for you.
Dude, if Merab fought Sandhagen, he might set a takedown record just because of how bad Sandhagen's takedown defense is. Billy's saying Merab smash time. Yeah, I think he does get it done. All right, so we will move on to the next fight on the card. We have Jéssica Andrade going against Cynthia Calvillo. Andrade, she is 29 years old, 5'1", with a 62-inch reach, going against Calvillo. She is 34 years old, 5'4", with a 64-inch reach. Jéssica Andrade, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights, but fighting some very respectable competition, to say the least. A knockout win over Rose Namajunas, a knockout loss to Weili Zhang, a split decision loss to Rose Namajunas, and then a knockout win over Caitlin Chukagian and then a knockout loss to Valentina Shevchenko. So some of the best fighters in the women's division. As far as Cynthia Calvillo, she is 3-1-1 draw in her last 5 fights. A submission win over Poliana Botelho, a decision win over Courtney Casey, a decision win over Marina Rodriguez, a decision win over Jéssica Eye, and then just recently a decision loss to Katlyn Chookagian, one that definitely surprised me there. I thought Calvillo would be able to exploit the 52% takedown defense of Chookagian, but she did not do that, and Chookagian outlanded her for 3 rounds. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy fight to break down, I think. I'm curious to hear what you have to say, Weezy. What do you got for this one?
Yeah, we know that Calvillo just does tend to go to that grappling over and over and over again. That's how she's been winning fights. She's got 6 wins and 3 of them inside the distance by submission. And then when she's not getting that, she can usually just use the grappling to win some control time positions. She's out controlling her opponents. Is Cynthia Calvillo 23% to 1.63%? So it's pretty clear what her game is. Jéssica, she's fought in all 3 weight classes in the UFC, 115, 125, and 135. This one will be at 125. Jéssica has fought the absolute cream of the crop. All the gatekeepers that Cynthia Calvillo has beaten, Jéssica would do the same to them. I just think kind of Andrade is better everywhere here. The takedown defense worries me just a little bit at only 66%. She successfully defended, Jéssica Andrade has, that is, 33 of 50 takedown attempts against her. She's out controlling her opponents 29% to about 11%. So I like to see that for Jéssica. As long as she keeps this fight standing, I think that power that she brings, that unusual power, 71% finish rate for Andrade in her career, 33% by sub, 38% by knockout. She's finishing half of her UFC wins. I just like Andrade here pretty much everywhere. Even decent power for a strawweight too, strawweight lightweight. I mean, strawweight flyweight in Andrade. So she's just fought the better competition. I think she's got the better striking. She's definitely way more experienced than Cynthia. I think she's kind of better everywhere here. How do you see this one?
Yeah, you mentioned the takedown defense. That stuck out to me as well, but I went through and looked at her last 12 fights. Only 2 fighters have taken her down. Valentina Shevchenko took her down 7 times, and then also Tecia Torres took her down 2 times in a fight where Andrade took her down 10 times in that fight. So, she hasn't been getting taken down that much recently, and yeah, I think Andrade more than likely smashes in this spot. The thing is, for me, does she finish Calvillo or does she win by a very dominant decision? Calvillo has never been finished. We see the fight doesn't go to decision. Is actually at minus 135. The fight goes to decision is at minus 105. Jéssica Andrade opened up minus 285. She is currently minus 275. And Calvillo is opening up plus 225 and plus 235 is her current line. Yeah, this is a massive step down in competition for Andrade, going from somebody like Valentina Shevchenko to Cynthia Calvillo, and then it's a step up for Cynthia Calvillo going from somebody that she lost to in Katlyn Chookagian going to a Jéssica Andrade here. So yeah, I like Andrade as well. I think she gets it done. Potential parlay piece, maybe. I mean, we talked about a bunch of favorites so far. I think she's one of the ones I'd feel more comfortable with. I think Dawkins could be a potential one as well. Wouldn't really parlay Fiora. Wouldn't really parlay Semmelsberger. So yeah, maybe a potential parlay piece for me. Oh, it's Talas Santos as well. It could be a parlay piece. But any other final thoughts on this fight? Do you think Andrade finishes, or do you think she wins by a dominant decision?
Yeah, I think it's going to be dominant, but it's hard to pick, whether it's going to be inside the distance or not. Calvillo never finished. The MMA math, in terms of Chookagian, Andrade knocked out Chookagian. Calvillo flat out lost to her. So, that shows a little bit of a difference in the level of competition and who they're beating, especially. And Jéssica Andrade is just way more handsome too. You got to add that to the column. So I think, there's a lot of reasons to like Andrade here and a lot of reasons to bet her. And I wouldn't hate it as a parlay piece either. Her and Santos could be a nice little women's parlay that has a really good chance of coming through.
Yeah, I don't hate that. And Andrade has an OnlyFans as well. So that's something else to note in terms of the fight. So we will move on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight a little bit. We have Curtis Blaydes going against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Like, this is a fight that could main event any fight card, right? Like, this is going to be a very, very good fight. Two of the best fighters in the heavyweight division. We have Curtis Blaydes going against Rozenstruik here. Blaydes is 30 years old, 6'4", 80-inch reach, going against Rozenstruik, 33 years old, 6'2", with a 78-inch reach. And, like I mentioned, these are two of the best in the heavyweight division, and they're only losing to the best in the heavyweight division. Curtis Blaydes is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. His last loss is to Derek Lewis. Prior to that, he had lost 2 times to Francis Ngannou. But he did beat Justin Willis by decision. He knocked out Shamil. He knocked out Junior Dos Santos, and then he beat Alexander Volkov by decision. And then just recently got knocked out by Derek Lewis. As far as Rozenstruik, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Another guy that's losing to the best guys. He lost to Francis Ngannou by knockout, had a win by knockout against Alistair Overeem, a win by knockout against Junior Dos Santos, a decision loss to Cyril Gane, and then a knockout loss to Augustus Sakai. So that's why this fight's so intriguing to me, because these guys are fighting the best of the best, and these guys are losing to the best of the best as well. Yeah, very curious to hear your thoughts on this one, Weezy.
Yeah, typical striker versus grappler matchup here. The numbers basically just meet that out perfectly. In terms of experience for these guys, very similar numbers. Rozenstruik only 3 years older. Blaydes going to be about 4 inches taller here, have a 2-inch reach advantage. Blaydes is a knockout king. He knocks people out on the ground, not on the feet. And he's been finishing all 3 of his losses. Rozenstruik, a 92% finish rate overall and a 50% finish rate in his losses. So, you do like that this fight could easily finish inside the distance. And when we're looking at the numbers here for Rozenstruik, another thing that just beautifully shows that this is a striker versus grapplers. Rozenstruik has attempted 0 takedowns and his opponents have attempted 30. So obviously his opponents are, single-minded that, if you want to have a chance against Jairzinho, you got to get him down to the mat. Jairzinho's being out-controlled at a 0.83% to 22.65% ratio. That's very alarming. That's not good, especially when you see Curtis Blaydes 55.32% control time for, only 2.25% control time against. So this is a guy who's built to implement the kind of game plan that will keep Rozenstruik at his least dangerous, which is him being on his back, a guy with a pure kickboxing background. If we look at the strength of schedule that these guys have faced, almost identical. I mean, they're both losing to only the best fighters. Gane and Ngannou for Rozenstruik, and then Ngannou twice, and Derek Lewis for Blaydes. So both of these guys' ratios are +3. The ratio in Rozenstruik's losses is actually 8. The ratio in Blaydes' loss is 3.5. If you look at the wins, they're identical almost, 1.75 ratio to 1.72 for Rozenstruik. The overall competition, very close. So this is going to be Curtis Blaydes grappling and top game against Rozenstruik's takedown defense and stand up. This is the kind of fighter that Blaydes has been beating. He's got the game plan, and his stand-up actually isn't even that bad right now. So I do see him, getting a lot of takedowns, accruing control time, and this being a 3-round fight. I like that even more because, 5-round fights, it's really difficult for a heavyweight to kind of keep that pace and keep a wrestling heavy game plan for 5 rounds. But this is only 3 rounds. Rozenstruik has shown really good 80% takedown defense thus far, but he still has been taken down 6 times in 8 fights. And we do know that Blaydes, having 59 takedowns in the heavyweight division out of 109 attempts, over 50% accuracy, averaging 6.64 takedowns per 15 minutes. It's exactly the kind of game plan that's just an absolute nightmare for Rozenstruik. I like Blaydes here. I like him a lot, but I won't commit to an inside the distance or decision bet here because I think he could win it either way.
Yeah, I'm very confident in Curtis Blaydes here, but how confident can you be in a heavyweight fight, right? Like, you know, Jairzinho Rozenstruik is one of those fighters that can be losing the entire fight up until they find the win. For example, Overeem. Overeem was up on all three judges' scorecards. He won all 4 rounds, right? And then in the last second of that fight, Rozenstruik knocks him out. And he has that power, right? Like the power is his biggest weapon. And you mentioned the 30 takedown attempts against; those are between 3 fighters. Cyril Gahn attempted to take him down 14 times. He got him down twice. Overeem attempted to get him down 10 times. He only got him down twice. And then Junior Albini attempted to get him down 6 times, and he got him down twice. I went back and watched that Albini fight. Somebody that's not in the UFC, and Albini looked very good. He was able to take down Rozenstruik. He was able to get into mount at one point. Just about submitted the guy, and he has improved his takedown defense. It looks like a lot since then, but I still think the ground game is just not good. Like when Overeem was taking down Rozenstruik, he just did not have any type of a get up game, any idea of how to get back up to his feet, and Curtis Blaydes is a much, much, much better wrestler than an Overeem, than an Albini, than a Gahn. So I think it's going to be an easy night at the office for Curtis Blaydes, but there is always that power. Like every fight starts on the feet, right? Every round starts on the feet. Rozenstruik's going to have opportunities to catch Curtis Blaydes on the way in, but Curtis Blaydes should win this fight. Like absolutely. It's just, do I want to trust a heavyweight fighter in Curtis Blaydes who just a weird game plan in his last fight against Derek Lewis? He wasn't able to get Derek Lewis down, and then he shoots in for a very sloppy takedown and gets knocked out cold. One of the most brutal knockouts you'll see this year, or was it last year? Either way, it was very, very brutal. But we do see Curtis Blaydes as a big favorite. It looks like a little bit of money is coming in on the Rozenstruik side as of late. Blaydes opened at -230. He went all the way down to -325, back up to -310. Rozenstruik opened up +195, currently +260. Yeah, in terms of a parlay piece, I think there's better options on this card. I think Blaydes does win more often than not, but it's heavyweight. It's heavyweight, and Rozenstruik has that X factor, and that X factor is that power, and it's only going to take one shot, one mistake to knock out Blaydes. But yeah, Blaydes should win this fight. Blaydes should definitely win this fight. Fight doesn't go to decision, is -210. Fight goes to decision is +160, and I'm with you. Like I could see Blaydes finishing. I could definitely see Blaydes finishing Rozenstruik because Junior Albini was so close to doing so. And if Blaydes can get into a very dominant position, like Blaydes' ground and pound is legit, and if Junior Albini can get into mount, Blaydes should as well. I'd be shocked if he wasn't able to get into a very dominant position and have a good chance to finish Rozenstruik there. The fight doesn't go. It does cover both sides, right? If Rozenstruik wins, it's going to be inside the distance. Zero chance he wins a decision. If Blaydes wins, I could see a dominant decision, but I do think there's a good shot for that finish as well. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this fight? I think Blaydes should get it done, but in terms of trusting him in a parlay, I'm not sure I can get there.
Yeah, I hate parlaying heavyweights, So yeah, this is either Rozenstruik by like knockout or Blaydes just all day, with via grapple fuck or ground and pound KO. But yeah, dude, I do like Blaydes quite a bit here.
All right, so we'll move on to the next fight. We have a couple left. I think 3 left here. So we have a very, very intriguing fight from a fan perspective. I can tell you right now, my money will be touching this fight. My money will not be anywhere near this fight. And because there's just so many red flags, we'll talk about all the red flags because there's a million of them. But from a fan standpoint, Weezy, this is going to be a very good fight. We have the return of Nick Diaz going against Robbie Lawler. Diaz, he is 38 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Robbie Lawler, 39 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach in terms of their last few fights. So I do want to point out that Nick Diaz has not fought in 6 years in 6 months. The last time we saw Nick Diaz was 6 years in 6 months ago in that Anderson Silva fight. A very, very, very good fight. Went back and watched it again today and enjoyed it. He was in there talking crap to Silva. Remember, he laid down on the mat in the first round. That was awesome. And then another thing I want to point out is Nick Diaz has not won a fight in, get this, 9 years in 9 months. Nick Diaz has not won in 9 years in 9 months. That is a long time, a very long time. Robbie Lawler, is the more active guy. You take a look at it. He is 2-1 in one no contest in his last. Oh, that's That's Diaz. He has 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Donald Cerrone win. After that, Rafael dos Anjos lost decision. Ben Askren lost submission. Very weird fight there. Colby Covington lost decision. Neil Magny lost decision. As far as Diaz, he had a 2-1 and 2-2 and 1 no contest. He had a knockout win over Paul Daly, a decision win over BJ Penn. That was his last win, I think, like back in 2010. Carlos Condit lost by decision. George St. Pierre, a decision loss, and then Anderson Silva, a no contest there. So yeah, I mean, it's a very weird fight, but a fight I'm looking forward to as a fan. But in terms of like betting it, I'm not so sure I want to get there.
Yeah, this is I'm not touching this fight with a 10-foot pole, but I will be there watching with a beverage, maybe a snack, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy this fight. I think kind of like when I think of somebody beating Nick Diaz, I think of them using wrestling, and just, not getting submitted. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Both the Diaz brothers are notoriously shitty with their takedown defense. They can be controlled from the top, and they're great boxers, so you want to kind of beat up their lead leg if you can. Diaz will be the better boxer here. Robbie Lawler, not a willing wrestler. He's got a wrestling background, but in 22 UFC fights, he's only attempted 23 takedowns. And get this, he's gotten 17 of them. He's got almost a 74% takedown accuracy. His takedown accuracy is better than his takedown defense. Isn't that crazy? You never see that. You never see somebody with better takedown accuracy, better than takedown defense. But yeah, Robbie Lawler, 17 of 23 on his takedown attempts. He's getting out-controlled 19% to 11%. Both of these guys have shown the ability to be out-controlled on the ground. I think Diaz will be the better boxer. He'll throw more volume. But I wouldn't bet this fight at all. There's no, like the last win between both of these guys is Donald Cerrone for Robbie Lawler. And that was probably like 4.5 years ago or something like that at this point. So yeah, there's not enough information out here. We don't know which Nick Diaz is going to show up. He hasn't fought in years, dude. So yeah, it's a big stay away from me. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? Like, that's such a long, like, we've seen people come back from long layoffs, right? Like a couple years, but no, 6 years in 6 months. It's just, it's unbettable. And I see so many people betting it too. I'm staying away. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Robbie Lawler in terms of a pick. Like, if this fight was, a couple years ago, I'm going Diaz all day, no question about it. But just 6 years away from the cage, that is something huge to mention. Robbie Lawler, he has not won in a long time. He's not won in 4 years in 1 month, but Diaz has not won in about 10 years. So I'm going to go with the more active guy. I forget the exact number, but I think Robbie Lawler's fought like 8 times, something like that, since Diaz's last fight. I'll go with Lawler, but I'm not going to put any money behind it. I'm going to sit there. I'm actually going to, root for Diaz. I'm a big Diaz fan, but if I was picking as a fan, I'd pick Diaz, but I'm not picking as a fan. I'll take the more active guy in Robbie Lawler, but do I feel great about it? Absolutely not. And we'll take a look at the line here. It is a pick'em, and that's what it should be. It should be an absolute pick'em. Nobody should be a favorite. Diaz opened up plus 210, currently minus 110, and then Robbie Lawler opened up minus 250 and currently minus 110. This should be a pick'em, no doubt about it. Even like the props, I have no interest in it all. Under 2.5 rounds is plus 160. Fight doesn't go to decision is plus 130. You will not see me betting on this fight, but you will see me watching this fight, enjoying it as a fan.
Me too. Absolutely. Just, as a gambler, you have to have access to certain amounts of information in order to make an educated decision. And we don't have it with Diaz and Law, both of these guys. It's been so long. 38 years old for Nick Diaz, 39 years old for Robbie Lawler. Yeah. So yeah. Let's just enjoy this one, man. It's going to be a damn good, entertaining fight, like every Nick Diaz fight and like every Robbie Lawler fight. It's going to be a banger. Can't wait for this one.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. Speaking of fun, we have Valentina Shevchenko going against Laura Murphy, the co-main event here. And I think lucky Laura Murphy's luck has just ran out. She's not going to pull one out of her ass this time. I really thought she lost against Joanne Calderwood in the last fight. And you take a look at the stats and you even watch it live. Like, Joanne Calderwood clearly outlanded her in the first, clearly outlanded her in the third. She won the second, but I just don't see how she won that fight. And then also Andrea Lee is another fight where she got lucky, pulled it out of her ass once again, and she won a fight that she lost. So I don't think that's going to happen here. I think the luck's run out, and I think Valentina Shevchenko shaves some ass here. Shevchenko, she is 33 years old, 5'5" with a 66-inch reach. 38 years old is Lauren Murphy, 5'5" and a 67-inch reach. So Murphy's actually going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, and she's going to be older by 5 years. In terms of their last few fights, Lauren Murphy is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Win over Mara Morella by knockout, a win that she lost against Andrea Lee, a win against Roxanne Modafferi, a win against Aliyah Shakarova by submission, and then a win that she lost against Joanne Calderwood. So you just take a look at the level of competition right there, Weezy. A win that she lost against Joanne, a win that she lost against Andrea Lee, Roxanne Modafferi, Aliyah Shakarova, who I think got suspended for like 2 years for something, and then Mara Morella, who I believe is out of the UFC, and now she is fighting for a title. So I guess that is why they call her lucky, right? Like that's insane. On the other side, we have Valentina Shevchenko. She is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Win over Jéssica Eye by knockout. Win over Liz Carmouche by decision. Win over Caitlin Chukagian by knockout. Win over Jennifer Maia by decision. And then a win over Jessica Andrade by knockout. I thought it wasn't possible for Valentina Shevchenko to look any better than she ever has, but she came out there in that Andrade fight pissed off. She heard people talking, like, I think she was pissed off. She said people were saying, like, there's a hole in her game. She got taken down by Maya in the fight prior, and she said, what hole? There's no holes in my game. And she went out there and shaved the ass of Jessica Andrade, which is not easy to do at all. So, yeah, we see why Shevchenko is minus 1,000 on some books, like minus 1,400 and greater, and I expect it to keep getting wider and wider. And outside of a legal knee, an eye poke. I just really find it hard to see Lauren Murphy winning this fight.
Yeah, and the biggest win here is Joanne Calderwood. It just seems like you don't have to do a whole lot in this division right now where it's at in order to get that title shot. And and Shevchenko is just head and shoulders above the rest of the division here. So Lauren Murphy is the next in line to get her ass shaved. She will get her ass shaved. It'll probably happen inside the distance. Valentina Shevchenko is terrifying. 35 of 55 on her takedown attempts in 12 fights. She's averaging 2.78 per 15 minutes, out-controlling her opponents at almost a 3-to-1 ratio, while Murphy's almost out-controlling her opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio. But yeah, you compare everything here, and it's Shevchenko all day. She's 5 years younger. She's got more fights. She's a better finisher. She's, fought the better competition. She's more accurate, more powerful, better defensively, the better wrestler, better takedown defense, better control time ratios, better competition, better looking, better tattoos, just better with a gun. Everything that Valentina Shevchenko, right? A better dancer. Though, she's a fantastic dancer. Let's not overthink this, man. Valentina all day long and twice on Sunday. This is going to be an ass shaving for sure.
Yeah, Valentina is the easy. Oh my goodness, man. Minus 1,800 now.
Yeah, and probably still going to move.
And money's still coming in on that, minus 1,800. So yeah, she opened up at minus 800. There's probably some value on that. Currently minus 1,800. We have not seen a favorite this big in some time, a long time. My goodness.
It's been a long time since we've seen somebody that fast. Not since the dominance of Maria Agapova have we seen somebody coming in with that kind of a line on her. And wow. This is, you just don't see a way for Lauren to win this fight. It would have to be, Valentina would have to slip on a banana peel, really. Yeah.
Murphy plus 1,000 if anybody wants to take a shot on her. Plus 1,000. That's insane, but it's warranted. I can't deny it. But the question is Valentina Shevchenko going to finish, or is she not going to finish? A lot of people are looking at the decision prop for Valentina. I personally think she finishes Murphy because they're taking a look at Murphy. She's never been finished, right? But she's never fought Valentina Shevchenko or anyone remotely close to Valentina. So yeah, I kind of like Shevchenko. I'm hoping money keeps coming in on the decision prop for Shevchenko, which decision right now is plus 290, and Shevchenko inside the distance is plus 265. But yeah, I think Shevchenko does finish her, whether it's however she wants, really, by knockout, by submission, whether it's a ton of damage throughout the fight and the ref stops it, corner stops it. I see a finish here one way or another. Murphy is very, very tough, but she's going to, Shevchenko's going to shave her ass here.
Ass shaving, you don't need me to tell you that. I'm gonna have to pick a different fight for my ass shaving of the week, because this one is definitely it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Lauren Murphy, congrats to her for putting together at least a 5-fight winning streak. She's been doing well. But yeah, this is where the streak ends, and Valentina's gonna just wait for the next one up.
Yeah, I think lucky Lauren Murphy's luck has just ran out. All right. Main event time. I'm looking forward to this main event. Two guys that I really do like. Alexander Volkanovski going against Brian Ortega. We have Volkanovski, 32 years old, 5'6", going with a 71-inch reach. Going against Brian Ortega, 30 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. In terms of the last few fights, Brian Ortega, submission win over Renato Moicano, submission win over Cub Swanson, a knockout win over Frankie Edgar, a knockout loss to Max Holloway. He does take about a 2-year layoff after that, and faces the Korean Zombie in a fight where, it looked like a new and improved Brian Ortega, right? Like, this guy was really good prior to his layoff, but he came back and showed some new things, right? Like, his striking looked a lot improved. His wrestling even looked improved. I think he took down the Korean Zombie, to somebody that typically has very good takedown defense. He took down Zombie 3 times in that fight, and he's a very dangerous fighter. When he wins, it is inside the distance. And, Alexander Volkanovski, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, wins over Chad Mendes by decision, knocked out Jose Aldo, beat Max Holloway by decision twice in a row, and then split decision win over Brian Ortega. Are you predicting the future?
Maybe I am predicting the future there. No, that's completely wrong. Wow.
Oh my!
Yeah, I'm not sure how I did that, man. You know what? Sometimes I just cut and pasted from the wrong spot. So yeah, we're two of the most recent wins were Holloway. I'll fix it one of these days.
I was like, what did you predict the future? Like, what's going on? Now we know. We don't have to
I think that split decision was against Holloway, and then you got to. Okay, yeah, I'll have to fix that. That's my bad.
You're good. All right, yeah. Get into it here. What do you got for us?
Yeah, man. Great fight, dude. I mean, it's hard to know what to think here, because, we know that Volkanovski's stand-up is fantastic. And then, prior to him, winning the championship, he was winning a lot of fights with wrestling when he first broke in. So, 2 wins over Max Holloway, both of them very close fights. Brian Ortega looked absolutely fantastic in his last outing against Chan Sung Jung. We got Volkanovski being 2 inches shorter, but having a 2-inch reach advantage. He's also 2 years older, so the measurables are not a big difference here. Volkanovski, a little more experience, minutes-wise, fight-wise. In terms of UFC experience, very similar for the both of them. They both have 9 fights. 67% finish rate by Ortega in his career, 64% finish rate for Volkanovski. Both of these guys have been finished in their only losses, both of them by KO. Volkanovski's striking numbers thus far in the UFC, he's landing 6.02 and only absorbing 3.31, while Ortega is landing 4.29 and absorbing 6.28. So we've definitely seen thus far, just in the past, Volkanovski being the much more efficient striker, almost as much volume, but it's just that Volkanovski's throwing more volume than his opponents, while Ortega seems to be getting out-volumed by his opponents. Volkanovski much better in terms of his striking defense and striking accuracy. Both of these guys showing some power, though. I guess what's going to be interesting is whether this fight goes to the ground or not. Volkanovski does have the ability to get it there when he wants it. He's out controlling his opponents 27% to 3%. So he's very efficient. He's getting takedowns at about a 35% clip, averaging 2.09 per 15 minutes. while Ortega's getting his takedowns at a 21% clip. So not very efficient with his wrestling. But his fights are mostly taking place in stand-up positions. About 84% of the time, Ortega's fights are taking place at striking distance. While for Volkanovski, it's about 70. So, I think most of this fight's going to take place on the feet. If we look at the ratios and the strength of schedule, Volkanovski's overall is better. His wins are better. And Ortega only has one loss, and that was to Max Holloway. So the strength of schedule, I'd give a slight edge here to Volkanovski. This is going to be a damn close fight. And Ortega seemed to take the next step with his striking. And we know how dangerous he is on the ground, man. I just see this as a very close fight. And we haven't seen Volkanovski for a minute. That last win against Holloway was at least a year ago. So I know he's not even in my database. So I know he hasn't fought since at least 2020. So, yeah, a little bit of a layoff here for Volkanovski. I see it as a very close fight. I wanted to see what you saw on the tape.
Yeah, it's a very close fight. I thought it was going to be betting Volkanovski prior to getting into the tape, but I don't know. I mean, I think he'll be winning minutes of this fight. It's just the problem with Ortega is this guy is just so dangerous. Like anywhere the fight goes, if it goes to the mat, obviously extremely, extremely dangerous. And, he was able to take down Korean Zombie 3 times, which was very impressive to me in his last fight. And he just looked like a completely different fighter. Brian Ortega, he looked good. He looked very, very good against Korean Zombie. And of course, there were rumors that Korean Zombie wasn't prepared for the fight, all that stuff. But it was just so impressive to see Brian Ortega go out there, outland the Korean Zombie 127-62. What I will say, though, is Korean Zombie was having success at times up until Brian Ortega hurt Zombie bad, and he hurt him very bad. It was like a spinning back elbow. Forget which round, but it hurt the Korean. It would have knocked out pretty much anybody else besides the Zombie. And it just shows you how dangerous Brian Ortega is at all times. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna pick. I don't know. I'm not gonna make a pick yet. I'm not going to make a pick yet. We're going to break this fight down on my channel. We'll do it tomorrow, Weezy, sometime, and then we'll post it. But it's a close fight. I'll say that. I think Alexander Volkanovski will be winning minutes here, but Ortega's gonna have 25 minutes to find a finish to hurt Volkanovski. Volkanovski got hurt twice or maybe 3 times. In that Max Holloway fight, right? He got knocked down a couple times. They didn't credit Max Holloway for any of those knockdowns, I don't believe, but still we all saw he did get hurt, he did get rocked, and Ortega's just very dangerous. His striking looked improved, his wrestling looked improved, and it's a close fight, and you won't see that by looking at the odds because Volkanovski is a pretty decent favorite. He opened at -185. He's currently -161. It's a close. It can go either way. Either Volkanovski is going to win a decision here, or Ortega's going to find a finish within the 25 minutes, which both are possible. I'm not betting a side here. Like I said, I thought I was going to be betting Volkanovski, but I definitely got scared away from that after getting into the tape and researching it into a little bit more. Even like the props, like no interest in. I know it sucks not having much action on the main event, and I probably won't have a bet on the main event here. I'm just going to sit back and watch it. The fight doesn't go to decision is +105. The fight goes to decision is -135. I think if Volkanovski wins, it's by decision. I think if Ortega wins, it's inside the distance. So really, I mean, pick your side there. But yeah, it's a close fight. It's a great fight. But in terms of like picking a winner, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough, Weezy.
It's tough, and like you broke it down perfectly, because check this out. Like you look at the wins from Ortega. Thiago Tavares, 3rd round knockout with 4:10 of the 3rd round, and then a 3rd round sub over Diego Brandao, then a 3rd round knockout and just an absolute war with Clay Guida, a 3rd round sub against Moicano. He subbed Moicano, and then a 2nd round sub against Swanson. He's so dangerous. Like you said, you could be winning the fight, winning minutes, and then he just catches you in a guillotine, or he lands one of those spinning elbows. And I think Zombie said that he wasn't even there after the 2nd round. He doesn't even remember any of it. So if that's anybody but Zombie, that he's slept. So yeah, Ortega is so dangerous. We know that how technically strong Volkanovski is, how good defensively he is. He's not going to, you really have to take what he gives you, and he doesn't give you a lot. So it's going to be an interesting stylistic matchup. A guy who can win a fight at any minute against a guy who's very good at winning minutes and doing it over and over again. I'm not making a pick yet, though. Just like you, It's I got to look way more into this one.
Yeah, I got to look into it a little bit more as well. But yeah, guys, that's about it. We went through 14 fights. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. If you guys can leave a like on the video, subscribe to Pub Sports Radio as well. The guys are going live right now for the football game that does start in about 5 minutes. So we're getting out just in time for some Chiefs versus the Ravens, which should be a fun game there. Uncle Weezy, let them know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the week for UFC 266 content.
Yeah, check me out right here on Pub Sports Radio tomorrow, or on Tuesday night at 6:15 Central Time for the DraftKings show, or 6 p.m. Central Time for the DraftKings show. And then you can check me on my channel here, Uncle Weezy on YouTube, where I do balls deep breakdowns of fights. I'll probably be going live after the football game tonight to break down Pierce versus Moraes, which is a very interesting fight in my opinion. And yeah, just check me out on Twitter at MMA Weezy, and check me out on my YouTube channel. I'll be doing my Just the Tip full card breakdown on Tuesday night after the Contender Series. Thank you guys for watching us on a football Sunday, and let's get to watching that night game tonight. And God bless each and every one of you.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. All right. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. I'll be getting out my full card breakdown and prediction video Tuesday morning. Going to finish up some research tonight, a little bit tomorrow as well. My DraftKings video will be out also. We do go live as well on Tuesday. Me, Weezy, Luke, and AJ on Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time for the DraftKings show. And I will be going live on my channel, DFS by the Numbers, Friday after the weigh-ins at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And then Saturday, once more, 1 hour prior to the prelims, which is not going to be 1 hour. We're going to have to switch up the time, Weezy. I'm going to be at the fights. I'm going to be in Vegas, so probably do it like earlier in the afternoon on Saturday there. But we'll do the best bet for that card there. So that's about it, guys. Good luck, and we will see you very soon. Good luck for UFC 266.